أهلا بكم إلى فقرة هي الثانية في سلسلة أعددناها وأطلقنا عليها اسم لنفهم الصين. سلسلة ستمر تباعا على أهم ملامح المشهد الاقتصادي الصيني. ينضم إلي اليوم من بيجينغ الدكتور ألبرت بارك مدير وحدة دراسات الأسواق الناشئة في جامعة هونغ كونغ للعلوم والتكنولوجيا. دكتور بارك، لماذا تصر الصين على الاستمرار في الاستثمار بكثافة في مشاريع البنى التحتية، وهل الحاجة الحقيقية لهذه المشاريع لا زالت ملحة؟
Well, I think the Chinese government has been very committed for many years to sustaining high rates of economic growth as an important means of maintaining political legitimacy. And so they care about growth. In the past, because growth has been so rapid, they've been able to invest very freely in infrastructure. And even if some of those infrastructure needs were not immediate, eventually the economy would grow and use the infrastructure, and it would be a useful investment for the most part. I think now China is still a growing economy. It's a large economy. There's still definitely infrastructure needs, but not at the same rate as before. So I think the government does need to be selective for fear that they may be over-investing in the economy.
وأعود إلى دكتور بارك، هل يمر القطاع العقاري الصيني بمرحلة ركود يمكن أن يشتد تأزمها لتنفجر الفقاعة التي تشكلت خلال السنوات السابقة؟
Well, the real estate sector has been very sluggish in China now for over a year or so, and I think it'll stay that way for some time. The government is very worried about a collapse in the real estate market. They're also actually worried about real estate prices going up too fast. So they kind of would prefer a stable price environment for the real estate sector. A lot of people have been talking about a bubble in the housing market in China for a long time, actually, maybe 5 or 6 years, but it hasn't happened. There's been no major burst. And I actually think the government has enough levers to prevent such a major collapse in housing prices. And because China is still urbanizing, there's still demand for housing, there's not a lot of pressure for people who have houses, even empty houses, to sell those houses because there's no real taxation on owning a house. So people are willing to be patient and wait for prices to come around. So I don't really foresee a collapse in housing prices.
ما الذي يمكن أن يؤمن الاستقرار الذي تحدثت عنه؟
Well, in the housing market, I think one thing that is important is to see if China can sustain a reasonably high rate of economic growth. I think right now the economy is slowing down. There are a number of headwinds, including the slow recovery in Europe and other parts of the world. But also wages are rising very rapidly. Some parts of the industrial sector are finding it very hard to remain profitable and stay in business. And I think if the government feels that the economy is not growing fast enough or is starting to slow noticeably, they may go back and try to ease credit and expand lending through the banking system. And what has happened in the past is whenever the government does that, the money seems to find itself into the real estate market. And so prices start to go up again. And so I think the government will try to manage the market environment to keep it from going too high and keep it from going too low. It's not very clear whether they can always do that successfully. Of course, we know the market forces themselves can be very powerful. So if they misinterpret what's happening, it could go, I think, in either direction.
أعود أعود مجددا إلى ضيفي دكتور بارك. هل ما يأخذ الصينيين للاستثمار بقوة في الخارج هي عوامل محلية طاردة أم عوامل خارجية جاذبة؟
I think it's a combination. It's mostly push factors. Part of it is that there's now a very large amount of private wealth accumulation in China. So there are a lot of rich people looking for things to do with their money, and they're becoming increasingly sophisticated. A lot of people made a lot of money in the housing market, and now they're buying properties all over the world, especially in the United States. Partly, too, it's that the Chinese government has tried to relax capital controls and try to make it easier for individuals to make investments abroad. I work in Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong there's a number of reforms to try to make it easier for mainland Chinese investors to invest in the Hong Kong market and in the foreign equity markets, and also for Hong Kong citizens or other people investing in Hong Kong to be able to make investments in mainland China. And there's a lot of business in China, too. As wages increase in China, they feel pressure to stay competitive. They want to go find places in the world where wages are lower and they can make a better profit. And so there is also a business sector movement to invest abroad.
من بيجينغ الدكتور ألبرت بارك مدير وحدة دراسات الأسواق الناشئة في جامعة هونغ كونغ للعلوم والتكنولوجيا، شكرا جزيلا لك.